Good evening, George Will here. Breaking news tonight that has sent shockwaves through the royal family and could fundamentally alter Prince Harry's future. We're not talking about rumors anymore. We're not talking about palace gossip. We're talking about a private letter written by King Charles III, delivered to his son, Prince Harry, containing an ultimatum so stark, so final, that it leaves no room for negotiation. According to documents obtained exclusively by our investigative team, King Charles has given Prince Harry exactly 30 days to make a choice that will define the rest of his life: divorce Meghan Markle and return to the royal fold with full restoration of privileges, or remain married and face permanent exile from the family, complete stripping of all remaining titles, and total severance of financial support. There is no middle ground. There is no compromise. There is only choice. This isn't about reconciliation anymore. This is about Charles drawing a line in the sand and demanding that Harry decide, once and for all, whether he is a member of the royal family or a former member building a separate life in California. Tonight, we reveal the contents of that letter, the reasons behind this extraordinary ultimatum, and why Harry is reportedly in a state of absolute turmoil, torn between the woman he married and the family he was born into. Before we go any further, I need you to subscribe and hit that notification bell. What you're about to hear is not being reported anywhere else in mainstream media. The palace is desperate to keep this private, but you deserve the truth. So subscribe now and let's proceed. Let's start with how this letter came to exist, because the origins of this ultimatum tell us everything about how completely the relationship between Charles and Harry has broken down. According to multiple sources close to the palace, the decision to issue this ultimatum was not impulsive. It was the result of months of deliberation, consultation with legal advisors, and input from senior members of the royal family, including Prince William and Queen Camilla. This was not Charles acting alone in anger. This was a calculated institutional decision. The breaking point came in September 2025, when Harry made a brief visit to London for a court appearance related to his ongoing legal battles with British tabloids. During that visit, Harry had a private meeting with his father at Clarence House. That meeting, which lasted approximately 50 minutes, was described by those present as tense and unproductive. Sources say that Charles attempted once again to discuss the possibility of Harry returning to royal duties in some capacity, even a reduced role. He offered financial support, security arrangements, and a path back into the family. But Charles made clear that any such reconciliation would require one non-negotiable condition: Meghan could not be part of it. Harry predictably refused. He stated that he and Meghan were a package deal, that he would not abandon his wife, and that any relationship with his family had to include her. Charles, according to witnesses, became visibly frustrated. He told Harry that the family had tried for years to accommodate Meghan, that they had bent over backwards to make her feel welcome, and that she had repaid their efforts with public attacks, media manipulation, and constant drama. The meeting ended badly. Harry left Clarence House and immediately flew back to California. And that, sources say, is when Charles made his decision. Enough was enough. No more olive branches, no more attempts at compromise. It was time for Harry to make a final choice. Within 2 weeks of that meeting, a letter was drafted. It was not sent via email. It was not delivered by courier. It was hand-delivered by a trusted royal aide who flew to California specifically for this purpose. The aide waited while Harry read the letter, offered no commentary, and flew back to London the same day. The entire delivery was designed to emphasize the gravity and finality of the message. Here's what the letter stated, and I'm reading from a copy that was leaked by someone with direct knowledge of its contents. Henry, I write to you not as your king, but as your father. What I am about to convey is the most difficult communication I have ever had to make, but it has become necessary. Your mother would have wanted me to fight for you, to never give up on bringing you back to the family. I have honored that wish for 5 years. But there comes a point when love must be accompanied by consequence, and that point has arrived. You made a choice when you married Meghan. You chose her over your family, over your duty, over your country. I accepted that choice, painful though it was. But what I cannot accept, what none of us can continue to tolerate, is the ongoing campaign of public attacks, the constant media manipulation, and the exploitation of your royal connection for personal gain, while simultaneously condemning the institution that gave you everything. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot be half in and half out. You cannot claim independence while trading on the family name. So I am giving you a choice that I should have given you years ago. A final choice. Within 30 days of receiving this letter, you will inform me in writing of your decision. You may choose to remain married to Meghan, in which case you will be formally and permanently removed from all royal duties, stripped of all remaining titles, including Duke of Sussex, removed from the line of succession and cut off from all financial support provided through family trusts and estates. You will be, in effect, a private citizen with no remaining connection to the crown. Or you may choose to divorce Meghan and return to your family. Should you make this choice, your titles will be restored, you will be welcomed back into royal duties at a level commensurate with your position, and financial support will be provided through appropriate channels. Your children, should you eventually have children with someone else, will retain their place in the line of succession. I am not asking you to hate Meghan. I am not asking you to denounce her publicly. I am simply asking you to choose between your marriage and your family. You cannot maintain both. The decision is yours, but it must be made, and it must be made now. You have 30 days from the date of this letter. After that deadline, if I have not received your decision, I will assume you have chosen to remain with Meghan, and the consequences will be implemented immediately. I love you. I have always loved you, but I will not allow this situation to continue indefinitely. The family deserves peace. The institution deserves stability, and you deserve clarity about who you are and what you stand for. Your father, Charles R. Let me emphasize the significance of this letter. A reigning monarch has given his own son an ultimatum to divorce or be exiled. This is unprecedented in modern royal history. Kings do not issue such demands lightly. The fact that Charles felt compelled to do this speaks to how completely he believes the situation has deteriorated. Now, you might be asking, why now? Why, after 5 years of Harry's departure, is Charles suddenly drawing this line? Let me show you exactly why, because the reasons go far beyond personal frustration. First, there's the matter of ongoing attacks. Even after leaving royal duties, Harry and Meghan have continued to make public statements and participate in media projects that criticize the royal family. The Oprah interview, the Netflix documentary, Harry's memoir, Spare. Each of these projects included allegations and accusations that damaged the monarchy's reputation. Charles, sources say, could have tolerated this if it had been a one-time catharsis, a chance for Harry to express his grievances and move on. But it hasn't been one time, it's been continuous. Every few months there's a new interview, a new allegation, a new attack, and with each attack the family's patience wears thinner. Second, there's the exploitation of royal connections. Harry and Meghan left royal duties claiming they wanted privacy and independence, but they immediately signed deals with Netflix and Spotify worth tens of millions of dollars, deals that were explicitly based on their royal status. They've used their titles, their connections, and their insider knowledge to build a brand, and that brand's primary selling point is their willingness to criticize and expose the family they left behind. Charles views this as having it both ways. You can't claim to want nothing to do with the royal family while simultaneously building a career based entirely on having been part of that family. It's hypocritical, and it's corrosive to the monarchy's dignity. Third, there's the impact on William. Charles is acutely aware that William, as heir to the throne, bears the burden of Harry's absence. William has had to take on additional duties. He's had to face the public fallout from Harry's accusations, and he's had to watch his brother attack their family while he remains silent due to his role. Charles knows that William's resentment toward Harry has reached a point of no return, and any hope of the brothers reconciling requires Harry to make a clean break from the past. Fourth, there's Camilla's influence. Queen Camilla has never been fond of Meghan. Sources say Camilla views Meghan as manipulative, opportunistic, and dangerous. Camilla has counseled Charles that allowing Harry to remain in a state of half-exile serves no one. Either bring him back fully, under terms the family can accept, or cut him off completely. The current arrangement, where Harry is technically still a prince but functionally an outsider, creates confusion and ongoing drama. Confusion and ongoing drama. Finally, there's Charles's own mortality. Charles is 76 years old. He waited decades to become king. He doesn't have decades left to reign. He wants his remaining years as monarch to be stable, dignified, and free from family scandal. He's willing to make hard decisions now, even painful ones, to ensure that stability. If that means losing his son, so be it. The institution comes first. Let's walk through the timeline of how this relationship reached the point of ultimatum, because the pattern of behavior is what proves this was inevitable. January 2020, Harry and Meghan announced their intention to step back from royal duties. The family is blindsided. Charles and William are furious that Harry didn't consult them first, but they agree to negotiate terms. March 2020, the Sandringham summit results in a compromise. Harry and Meghan can leave royal duties but must give up HRH titles and royal patronages. They're allowed to keep Duke and Duchess of Sussex titles. Financial support will continue for 1 year as a transition. March 2021. 1 year later, the Oprah interview airs. Harry and Meghan make explosive allegations, including claims of racism within the royal family. Charles is personally attacked. The family is devastated. Charles considers stripping titles immediately but is counseled to wait. July 2021. Harry returns to UK for Princess Diana statue unveiling. Meets with Charles and William. Conversations are described as unproductive. Harry refuses to apologize for Oprah interview. Charles refuses to restore privileges. Stalemate. September 2022. Queen Elizabeth dies. Harry rushes to UK but doesn't arrive in time. During funeral proceedings, tensions are visible. Harry and William barely speak. Charles is focused on his new role and has little patience for family drama. January 2023, Harry's memoir, Spare, is published. Contains intimate details of family conversations, arguments, and private moments. Charles is portrayed as cold and neglectful. William is portrayed as aggressive. Camilla is attacked. The family is appalled. Charles instructs lawyers to explore options for title removal, but faces legal obstacles. September 2023, Harry continues legal battles with British press. Each court appearance requires security arrangements. Charles is paying for some of Harry's security despite Harry's attacks on the family. Charles finds this situation untenable. December 2024, reports surface of Harry and Meghan's financial struggles. Spotify deal canceled. Netflix deal uncertain. Rumors of mounting debts. Charles worries that Harry will eventually come asking for money while still refusing to rejoin the family. He decides to force the issue before that happens. September 2025, the Clarence House meeting happens. Charles makes his final attempt at reconciliation. Harry refuses any arrangement that doesn't include Meghan. Charles decides the time has come for an ultimatum. October 2025. The letter is drafted, reviewed by legal advisors, and delivered to Harry in California. The 30-day countdown begins. This timeline shows that Charles didn't wake up one morning and impulsively issue an ultimatum. This was the result of 5 years of deteriorating relations, repeated failed attempts at reconciliation, and a growing recognition that the current situation serves no one. So why is this ultimatum an existential crisis for Harry? Because every option leads to loss, and there is no good choice. If Harry chooses to divorce Meghan, he loses his wife, his children's mother, and his current life. He would have to admit that the critics were right, that the marriage was a mistake, that he was manipulated. He would have to return to the UK, likely without his children initially, and rebuild relationships with family members who have little trust in him. He would be subject to royal protocols, media scrutiny, and duties that he previously found suffocating. In short, he would be admitting defeat and crawling back. But if Harry chooses to stay with Meghan, he loses everything else. His titles would be stripped, formally and permanently. He wouldn't be Prince Harry anymore. He'd be Henry Mountbatten Windsor, private citizen. His children would lose their place in the line of succession. They'd have no royal connection, no claim to titles, no inheritance rights from royal trusts. Harry would be financially cut off, living entirely on whatever income he and Meghan can generate independently. And after the Spotify cancellation and Netflix struggles, that income is uncertain. Moreover, staying with Meghan means accepting permanent estrangement from his family. Not just his father, but his brother, his cousins, everyone. He would never again attend family events, royal weddings, christenings, funerals. When Charles eventually dies, Harry would not be part of the funeral proceedings in any official capacity. He'd be a former family member, watching from the sidelines like any other distant relative. The psychological toll of either choice is immense. If Harry divorces Meghan, he'll spend the rest of his life wondering if he made the right decision, if he abandoned the one person who truly loved him to please a family that never accepted his choices. If he stays with Meghan, he'll spend the rest of his life wondering if he threw away his heritage, his titles, and his place in history for a woman who may or may not have been worth the sacrifice. And here's the cruelest part of the ultimatum: Harry has to make this choice alone. Meghan cannot make it for him. If Harry asks her what to do, and she says stay with me, she'll always wonder if he resented the choice. If she says go back to your family, she'll always wonder if he resented her for not fighting harder. Either way, the decision will haunt their relationship. This is the ultimate test of Harry's character, his values, and his priorities. And there is no answer that doesn't involve profound loss. Now let's talk about Meghan, because this ultimatum isn't just about Harry's choice. It's about whether Meghan will let him make it freely, or whether she'll manipulate the decision to serve her own interests. According to sources close to the situation, Meghan's initial reaction to the letter was fury. She views the ultimatum as an attack on her, proof that the royal family has always wanted to destroy her. She's reportedly told Harry that if he even considers the divorce option, it proves he never truly loved her, that he was always more loyal to his family than to his wife. But here's what those sources also report. Meghan is terrified, because if Harry chooses to stay with her, they're financially ruined. The royal titles were the only thing giving them any marketability. Without those titles, they're just another celebrity couple in Los Angeles, except they're not actually celebrities in the traditional sense. They're famous for being royal, and if they're not royal anymore, what are they? Meghan, sources say, has been in frantic meetings with lawyers and financial advisors trying to figure out how they could survive financially if the titles are stripped. The numbers don't look good. They have the Montecito mansion with its crushing expenses. They have minimal income from failed media deals. They have debts, allegedly including the Tyler Perry loan situation we covered previously. Without the titles, they can't command the speaking fees, the appearance fees, the book deals that they've relied on. So Meghan is caught in her own trap. She wants Harry to choose her, to prove his love by defying his family, but she also knows that if he does choose her, they're facing financial ruin. She can't admit this to Harry because it would expose that her motives are at least partly financial, but she also can't push him toward the divorce option because that means she loses. Sources suggest Meghan is trying to thread the needle by encouraging Harry to call what she views as his father's bluff. She's telling Harry that Charles won't actually follow through, that this is a negotiating tactic, that if Harry just refuses to engage with the ultimatum, Charles will back down. But this strategy is dangerous because by all accounts Charles is deadly serious. He's thought this through, consulted advisors, and made peace with the potential loss of his son. He's not bluffing. And here's what makes Meghan's situation even more precarious. If Harry does choose to divorce her, she's destroyed. She'd be the American actress who married a prince, caused a royal family civil war, got the prince to abandon his family, and then got divorced and lost everything. That's not a story that sells books or gets lucrative deals. That's a cautionary tale about ambition, manipulation, and spectacular failure. So Meghan needs Harry to stay with her, but she needs it to somehow not be financially catastrophic, and there's no path that achieves both of those goals. The ultimatum has trapped her just as effectively as it's trapped Harry. Here's what's really terrifying for both Harry and Meghan. The 30-day deadline is actively counting down, and they have no good options. If they ignore the deadline hoping it goes away, Charles has already stated what happens. The titles will be stripped automatically, no further warning, no appeal process. It will be announced publicly, and Harry and Meghan will wake up one morning no longer being the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. If they try to negotiate, asking for more time or different terms, Charles has made clear there will be no negotiation. The terms are final. The deadline is firm. Any attempt to negotiate will be interpreted as refusing the ultimatum, which means automatic title stripping. If they go public with the ultimatum trying to shame Charles into backing down, it backfires spectacularly. The public will see a father trying to bring his son back into the family, and a son refusing unless he can do it entirely on his own terms. Sympathy will be with Charles, not Harry. If they try legal action challenging Charles's right to strip the titles, they face two problems. First, the king has broad authority over royal titles, and courts are reluctant to interfere with internal royal family decisions. Second, even if they could win, the legal battle would take years, during which time they'd be in limbo, and the damage to their reputation would be severe. No one wants to watch a prince sue his own father, the king, over titles. The only real options are the two Charles laid out: divorce or accept exile. Everything else is a fantasy. And time is running out. According to our calculations based on when the letter was delivered, Harry has approximately 17 days left to decide, just over 2 weeks. That's not enough time to think through all the implications, consult with advisors, process the emotions, and make peace with whatever choice he makes. The deadline is intentionally short because Charles doesn't want Harry overthinking this. He wants a gut-level decision, family or wife. That's it. So what are the most likely scenarios? Let me walk you through what could happen when the deadline arrives. Scenario 1. Harry chooses divorce. This is the outcome Charles wants, but it's also the least likely based on Harry's character. Harry has consistently prioritized his marriage over his family. He walked away from royal duties for Meghan. He endured years of estrangement for Meghan. He sacrificed his relationship with William for Meghan. Asking him to now reverse course and admit it was all a mistake requires a level of self-awareness and humility that Harry has not demonstrated. However, there are circumstances under which Harry might choose this path. If Meghan herself suggested it, if she told Harry that the marriage isn't working and that he should go back to his family, Harry might do it. He could frame it as a mutual decision, not a forced ultimatum. He could tell himself he's honoring Meghan's wishes, not betraying her. But this requires Meghan to be selfless enough to free Harry, and there's no evidence she's capable of that level of sacrifice. Scenario 2. Harry chooses Meghan. This is the most likely outcome. Harry will view the ultimatum as an unfair choice, an impossible demand, and proof that his family never truly loved him. He'll tell himself that a real father wouldn't force such a decision, that his mother Diana would never have done this to him, and that choosing Meghan is actually choosing love over duty, romance over obligation. In this scenario, the titles are stripped as promised. Harry becomes a private citizen. Meghan becomes a former duchess. Their children lose their royal connection, and they attempt to rebuild their brand around authenticity, resilience, and love, conquering all. Whether the public buys this narrative is questionable, but they'll try. Financially, this scenario is disastrous for them, but they may convince themselves they'll figure it out, that doors will open, that their story is still marketable. This is likely wishful thinking, but it's the story they'll tell themselves to justify the choice. Scenario 3. Harry refuses to choose. In this scenario, Harry simply doesn't respond to the ultimatum. He ignores the deadline, refuses to engage, and lets the 30 days pass without making a formal decision. This is passive resistance, Harry's way of rejecting the premise of the ultimatum without actively choosing exile. But as Charles made clear in the letter, failing to respond is itself a response. Silence equals choosing Meghan. The titles will be stripped. The consequences will be implemented. The only difference is that Harry can tell himself he didn't technically choose. He just didn't participate in what he views as an unfair process. This scenario is psychologically appealing to Harry because it allows him to maintain some moral high ground. He can claim his father forced the outcome without his participation. But practically, it's identical to scenario 2. The result is the same. Titles gone, family lost, financial struggles ahead. Scenario 4, Harry asks for a middle ground that doesn't exist. This is where Harry tries to negotiate a compromise, some arrangement where he keeps some titles but doesn't have to divorce, or where he agrees to stop public attacks in exchange for the ultimatum being withdrawn. He proposes a truce, a détente, some way to de-escalate without fully capitulating. Charles, true to his word, will refuse. There is no middle ground, there is no compromise, there is only the choice laid out in the letter. Harry can either accept that or not, but he can't change the terms. When this negotiation fails, Harry will feel even more trapped, even more resentful, even more convinced that his family is unreasonable. And he'll likely default to scenario 2, choosing Meghan out of spite as much as love. Let's zoom out for a moment because this ultimatum isn't just about one family's dysfunction. It's about the monarchy's long-term survival and the price of maintaining institutional integrity. Charles is making a calculation that many will see as cold, even cruel. He's willing to lose his son to preserve the monarchy's dignity. He's willing to estrange his grandchildren to enforce boundaries. He's willing to endure public criticism for being heartless in order to demonstrate that the crown cannot be manipulated, exploited, or defied without consequence. From Charles's perspective, this isn't about punishment. It's about protecting the institution. Every day that Harry remains in royal limbo, attacking the family while keeping his titles, the monarchy looks weak. It looks like the royals can be pushed around, that rules don't apply if you're willing to cause enough drama. Charles is saying, no more. If you're part of this family, you're bound by its rules and you respect its traditions. If you're not willing to do that, then you're not part of the family. It's that simple. There is no intermediate state where you get to be half royal, trading on the family name while condemning the family itself. Whether this hardline approach is right or wrong is a matter of opinion, but it's consistent with Charles's broader vision for a streamlined monarchy. He wants fewer working royals, clearer roles, stricter boundaries. Harry's limbo status conflicts with that vision, so Charles is resolving it decisively and finally. The human cost is enormous. Charles might never speak to his son again. Harry's children might grow up never knowing their grandfather, the king. The family breach could last decades, but Charles believes that's preferable to allowing the current situation to continue, where every few months brings a new headline about Harry's latest grievance or Meghan's latest project that exploits royal connections. Some will see Charles as a strong leader making tough decisions. Others will see him as a cold father prioritizing institution over family. Both interpretations contain truth. So here's where we stand tonight. King Charles III has given Prince Harry 30 days to choose: divorce Meghan Markle and return to the royal family with full privileges restored, or remain married and face permanent exile, complete title stripping, and total financial cutoff. The deadline is approaching. By our calculations, Harry has approximately 17 days left to decide. If he chooses divorce, he returns to the family but loses his wife and the life he built in California. If he chooses Meghan, he keeps his marriage but loses his titles, his royal connection, his family relationships, and his financial security. If he refuses to choose, he defaults to losing everything except Meghan. There is no good option. There is no compromise. There is only loss, one way or another. The most consequential decision of Prince Harry's life is about to be made, and when it's made, when the deadline passes and the choice is revealed, the royal family will never be the same. Now I turn it over to you. What do you think Harry should do? Type divorce if you think Harry should leave Meghan and return to his family. Type stay if you think Harry should choose love over titles and remain with Meghan. Type rebel if you think Harry should refuse to engage with the ultimatum and force his father's hand. If you appreciate us investigating the private decisions that will shape royal history, smash that like button. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what happens when the 30-day deadline expires. Because make no mistake, this is the most dramatic royal ultimatum in modern history. And in approximately 17 days, we'll know whether Prince Harry is still part of the royal family or has become a permanent exile. The clock is ticking, the choice is impossible, and the consequences are irreversible. I'm George Will. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next investigation.